Hello and welcome back to my channel. Again, my name is Damali. I'm the founder and lead counselor at Forerunner Counseling. My website is forerunnercounseling.com. And for those of you that have not subscribed, I do send out newsletters at least once a week. If you want to keep updated with some of the topics that I discuss here, you can go check out my website and just subscribe to my newsletter. My office is located in Montclair, New Jersey, and I have been doing this for a period of over 16, 17 years. I do work with individuals and I do work with couples, and there's so many areas or expertise that I can share with you. But today I feel led to just talk about forgiveness. I think we all have experienced life circumstances where people have done things to you where you didn't think, or you may still be in a place where you don't even know if you can move past it. And so my intention in this subject is to kind of do the best that I can, because knowing that this is a very extensive subject, but I'm going to try to talk about what some of the things of what forgiveness is or what forgiveness is not, and hopefully share with you some of the ways that you can start processing forgiveness if this is an area where you feel like you need to invest more energy and mental and spiritual energy to process. So a lot of times, especially when I do have a class that I teach, and when many times in that class we have a subject on forgiveness, a topic on forgiveness, and a lot of people when they come, they don't think that they have any form of unforgiveness, right? They think that I already forgive that person. I just don't want anything to do with them. And now it sounds good, and to some degree, that's honesty. That's very honest, because when someone has hurt you, you could let go of what they've done to you, but you can also choose not to be in their lives, or they don't have to be in your life, and that's fair. But at times when people make statements like that, they don't realize that they are still in the process to forgive. For example, I had this one person telling me, I forgive them, but I can't stand them. Can you imagine? And they were very honest, because from their understanding, I'm not holding anything against them. I just can't be around them. You have to ask yourself, what is it about them, or what are they doing that you feel like when you're in their presence, you just can't deal with them? You see, forgiveness is a process. And sometimes when I'm telling people, when I'm working with them, considering some of the betrayals people go through, especially when I'm working with couples that have gone through like infidelity, I always tell them in the beginning, I'm not even asking you to forgive right now, because that can seem like an injustice to the person who has been offended or betrayed. It comes off very insensitive. And I think sometimes even as we go in spiritual circles, right, we can come to that place of just trying to do the right thing, which means that God wants us to forgive. But sometimes we are insensitive to the pain that person is going through. We're not saying that we are not going to forgive, but sometimes also that timing on when we are going to forgive, sometimes when a person hasn't felt like you've listened to them, or someone has really understood or even empathized with them, with what they're experiencing, and then you just tell them to forgive, a part of them just actually gets angry at you and just shuts down on you, because it comes off like very insensitive, no empathy at all. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is basically learning to let go of the resentment, the anger, the hostility that you may have towards the person who has treated you unfairly. You know, even though you're justified in having these feelings, when you choose to forgive, you're choosing that I'm letting go of these emotions of resentment, anger, hostility. And some people think that as soon as you just say, I forgive you, then that's it. But you're holding on to the resentment. I'm like, I forgive them, but I'm still angry at them. So that means you may want to forgive, but you're still in the process, right? So forgiveness means that you're going to let go of the resentment. Forgiveness also may help you to recognize that you're the wrongdoer, the person who has caused you harm, is a human just like everybody else. And I think sometimes we negate the humanity factor in all of us, and we have our expectations of each other as if people are God. And for those of you that have never touched the therapy at all, you've never been to counseling to deal with any of your life experiences, especially like childhood issues, there are very many chances that you your wounded parts, the parts of self that have been wounded because of your childhood experiences that are stuck. Because usually, and I'm gonna go on a bunny trail for a little bit. When we are little, we look at our parents as God because our existence depends on them. They feed us, they change our diapers, they take us everywhere we need to go, they shelter us, we live in their home. So by default, they are God because we don't know who God is. They are God. Those are the ones that we know, the parents. And our hearts have an expectations of their perfection, meaning that they should give us what we want, especially that we are not developed enough to articulate what we want. We just perceive it or we experience it. And so a lot of times we get disappointed, get discouraged, and we feel stuck, not knowing how to process that disappointment, the betrayal, whatever that circumstance may be. So when we get older, and our expectations of other people as of what our parents did not give us, we can become very fragile emotionally where we expect every human being to make up for what our parents did not do. And this really manifests itself a lot in marital relationships or intimate relationships because it's supposed to, by default, we have expectations that this is supposed to feel like real love where there is no pain at all. And that means that you should know what I want. You should give me whatever I ask you when I need it. And without realizing, those are the expectations we had of our parents in at the same time what we expect of God. And when we forget our humanity means that I can mean or I can intend to do something for you, but something can come up and I may not be able to do that. And then you will be disappointed, not because I intended to disappoint you, but life circumstances presented themselves where I'm not able to give you that thing that you want. And so you're going to be disappointed. And so when we forget the humanity in all of us, where our expectations that we want someone to be like God or we want them to be angelic in who they are, we may struggle processing forgiveness because we hold on to grudges because we feel like they will never change. But in reality, you may not do what that person has done to you, but you also do other things to other people that also cause them harm. So you always remember when people hurt you, just remember the same way you hurt, you also do things to other people in different ways that may cause them to feel the same way you're feeling. So that means that all of us have to learn to live a lifestyle of forgiveness. Otherwise, none of us is perfect, right? And so the other thing of what forgiveness is giving the relationship a chance to amend that was damaged. When you choose to forgive, you're opening your heart up to repair the damaged relationship. Because some people don't know how to do that. They feel like I want to stay married to you, but I don't know how to do that. And that's where forgiveness will help you to know how to process forgiveness so that you can repair and heal that relationship. And some people don't feel like it's even a possibility because they already assume that this pain is too much. That's why we have to learn to process the resentment, the anger, and the hostility that we may have so that we open up the heart to be willing to repair. Because sometimes if that anger is there, we don't even have the willingness to repair the relationship whatsoever. So that's something that you want to consider, being able to repair the damage that has been caused because of whatever that situation was. Forgiveness also gives us a mental shift or a change of heart, and that can develop over time. There are things, I mean, there is like a little book that I recommend to a lot of my clients because it really, really helped me. I remember I had to process forgiveness and it was a very painful situation. And I honestly did not know how I was going to process it because it was so hurtful. And there are different degrees of pain. Their pain. So in the book, it kind of categorizes the different types of pain that people we go through when we are hurt and the ways to heal each category. So if I give you an example, if you cut your hand when you're making, let's say you're cooking and you kind of cut your finger by mistake, not slice it off, but just cut it off a little bit and it bleeds a little. You may put a band-aid to it, you may apply pressure and put a band-aid and you're good, right? And then a person may be walking near you, or and then somebody, maybe a person can punch you in the face or punch you in the nose and break your nose or break your teeth. The way to heal that pain is not the same way as when you were cutting your hand in the kitchen, right? You see, now you have to go to the hospital. And then we have areas where, like, you're bruised, right? When you're bruised, every time you touch that area that has been bruised, you feel the pain, right? And this happens a lot in close friendships, family relationships, and even marriages, where you're still in contact with this person. So every time they do that, you feel the pain all over again. You're bruised. And then we have what they call like crippling injuries. These are injuries where it actually alters your life. So, for example, you're married and your spouse commits adultery, and you have, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, and these are some of the areas, financial abuse, what they call it, where one person has control or leverage over the finances, and now they have betrayed you, and you have to choose whether you want to stay. So you decide maybe to leave, but you've never worked a day in your life. You don't even have an account. You don't even know how to pay your bills. Um, Now your life is altered. You really have to either go and get a job. You will have to get a job, but you also may have to go back to school. You may have to start on brand new, get a new home, get a new, all those things, like it cripples you in such a way that you're starting your life all over again. It's kind of like the past years that you were living never existed, and now you're starting all over again. It really dents you. So the way you're forgiving that is not the same way you're forgiving the way you cut your hand in the kitchen, right? So you have to know the level of injury that you have experienced so that you don't assume that the way to heal it is going to be the same. Some things you can heal like today, and you can just forgive because the person did not intend to do that. I didn't intend to call you to forget your birthday, or I didn't intend to tell someone a situation that I didn't think it was that private per se, whatever the circumstance may be. And so we have to know that if you're betrayed or you're hurt, whatever bruise you may have, it's not the same way to process to heal as every other thing, right? So be open to that because you may take time to shift your mindset, your mind. Forgiveness is a process that can start at any time. You may have held on to a grudge for 10 years, but you start somewhere. It doesn't mean that because it's been 10 years later, it doesn't mean that you can't process it. Forgiveness also will give you the opportunity to heal. Remember, when you hold on to resentment or hostility, you're the one suffering. That de de by default, when you're holding on to that hostility, it pre prevents you from experiencing more joyful emotions like joy or happiness, excitement, because this becomes like an unresolved issue that is like an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed, right? And so you can make a decision as you're processing to forgive if you want to forgive the other person, but you want to know that it's your decision. But what forgiveness is not, this is where a lot of people get stuck. They think that if I forgive you, that means I'm condoning and approving or excusing what happened, especially when it comes to infidelity. A lot of people, when they are trying, especially the one who was betrayed, they have a hard time processing forgiveness because it almost comes off as if the other person is getting away with murder. That's how it feels. But that's what forgiveness is not. It's not condoning the bad behavior. It's just letting go of the resentment, right? So if you're not letting go, you're thinking that you holding on to the resentment is basically making the other person pay dearly for what they did wrong. But that's not how it works, right? And forgiveness is not basically saying that you're forgetting how you were wronged and pretending like nothing happened. we are also acknowledging that, yes, it did happen, but holding on to it for a long period of time, what's the point? You can remember it, but when you heal, you can remember something and not relive the experience where you're stuck in unforgiveness, right? Forgiveness is not an agreement to continue the relationship as it was, because you have to repair, and sometimes it may not be repaired. So I may forgive you, but I may not be able to hang out with you like we used to, or I may not be able to be vulnerable with you, because especially if you haven't even acknowledged your wrongdoing, so that is where we have to have healthy boundaries with people, as opposed to putting ourselves in vulnerable situations. One of the things, especially Christians, they do struggle with this, because it's kind of like you easily forgive, and you also don't draw healthy boundaries when you forgive. And so you think that because you forgive, the other person should change. And it never works like that. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake, and then they get angry when the relationship doesn't work out, because they feel like because they forgive, the other person should have changed. A person has to give you fruits or manifestations of their change, or their remorsefulness, or their repentance. Because if they don't give that to you, on what basis do you go back as if nothing happened? Right? You have to address those things, but you also know that if that person even doesn't even acknowledge wrongdoing, they are not making it mutual to be in a relationship. And I usually tell people this, that, even God has boundaries with us. Our ability to access God is not because we want to. We want to, yes, but he also has boundaries, that if there are certain things that he may express to you that I'm not really interested in that, and you keep violating that, he will give you the relationship that you're willing to give to him. So if you don't want to repent of whatever wrong you do before God, you're not gonna experience him in the depths of who he is, because your choices is what he's responding with to you. So some people feel like God is so far away, God doesn't answer them, things like that, without realizing that it's a relationship. So if you're not experiencing what you want, you do your part so that you can experience what you're desiring. So even in our relationships, that's the thing. Just because you forgive someone doesn't automatically change them. And sometimes it can, because when we forgive, we become like a bridge. Some people may not be accessed, but your kindness, your ability to forgive them. I'm sure you've seen cases in court where the person killed their son or their child, and the parents in court come and forgive that person who killed their daughter or their son. And that expression of forgiveness, sometimes it can change the person who wronged, because they know that what they did was wrong, but someone was very gracious and kind still to forgive them and let them, not necessarily let them off the hook, but to know that we are not holding this against you. Now you're in God's hands. Now make peace with God. Otherwise, that's scary. So yeah, forgiveness is also like something you do for yourself. You don't do it for the other person. Because a lot of people think that when I forgive you, I'm doing this for you. You're the one who is holding on to resentment. So when you're forgiving, you're letting go of all of that. It's a benefit to you. So don't think that it's for the other person. It's for you. Forgiveness is not getting even or getting revenge. I'm sure we all can identify it feels good to be revengeful, but at the same time, it's temporal. It's not sustainable. Then you end up back into square one. Vengeance does not belong to us. God is the one that has the ability to pardon our sins or our wrongdoing. And at the same time, if you avenge yourself, you think that you're angry, but you don't want to see what God does if he's going to punish you for your sins. That's scary. So when you're getting to understand as you're letting go, it doesn't mean that you have to get even. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we have to get even, because then you're gonna be a vengeful person, and that's a bitter person. And the other thing I would say is that forgiveness is not something that you're forced to do, right? And I'm very mindful when I work with people to see where they are in the stages of forgiveness. That is something that probably I will discuss in another video, how to process forgiveness, the journey that you have to walk through to process. There are things And I think that initial things you can say, I choose to forgive you, but God help my heart to continue the process because I'm not where I need my heart to be. And that's okay because we are human. I always say that it's almost like if you just had surgery, you cannot run for a marathon, a full-blown marathon. That's dangerous to you. It's the same thing with the betrayals that we live through in the earth. You want to ask, you choose to forgive the person, but you also want to continue the process so that you get to that place where your heart can be open. If you have to repair that relationship, that you're open to do that, so that even the other person may see that, wow, thank you for forgiving me, and I want to do better next time, that I don't have to do this to somebody else or even to you again. So with that being said, you have to know what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not, so that you don't get stuck. I've seen people being stuck for years and years and years and years. Now, if you are maybe in a place where you have some areas of forgiveness that you want to work through, I always tell my clients that wherever you are, I'm not judging you because that's where you are. We have to be honest, truthful, meaning that this is what I feel. I feel like killing you. And we should be honest that that's how we feel, because if we are lying about it, what are we processing in the first place and who are we doing it for? So please, if you have any form of unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, resentment towards a situation, towards people or anyone, my encouragement to you, please reach out to me at forerunnercounseling.com. You could schedule a free consultation and I would be willing, more than happy to meet with you to answer whatever questions you may have. But unforgiveness can become a sickness. Some people get autoimmune diseases because they hold on to their anger, and the anger starts to eat up their physiological body. So it's not worth it. Whatever they did, you can't give them that much power. You can make a difference within your own life. And remember, we're all humans. You may not do what you think other people have done to you, but at the same time, you also do things that cause pain in other people's lives. So please reach out to me. Again, my website is forerunnercounseling.com, and my information is on this website when you get a moment to like it or even to um, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.